Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of The Dinner Table Detective. Great series premiere. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I didn't really know what to expect going into this series because on Wikipedia, there is no synopsis for this, so I didn't even know what to fully expect when I came across this series. But either way, I did like kind of our slight in media res opening where it's just like quick, like couple seconds cold open of, oh, a crime went down, some suspects is at a dinner party, and then we rewind and find out we get introduced to our main protagonist, Reiko, which I thought was interesting where she's the heiress to a big time family, but she's also working as a cop. Because I think it's interesting because someone had asked her early on, like, oh, like, are you basically ready to kind of take over the family business? Or are you positioning yourself to take over the family business? She's kind of like, no. Because it seems like only the higher ups amongst the police know who she really is. But, like, her boss, Kazamatsuri, which I'm probably just going to call him by his first name, Kishiro, just because I'm going to be able to remember that more than his last name. But Kishiro doesn't know her doesn't know that. He just thinks, oh, this is my subordinate. And he's not who I thought he'd be, which I thought was interesting. He kind of reminds me a lot of Mori from Detective Conan. I had to look it up because I actually couldn't remember Mori's first name. It's Kogoro. But yeah, he kind of reminds me of him. Even more showboaty because he's actually from a prestigious family, an automotive family, a family that owns like a very specific automotive company. And I love that the people at the party were like, "Oh, really? Those cars suck." And he was because he's so flashy, the white suit, acting all arrogant and stuff, and then immediately having his family's like business crapped on like that. So it is interesting that it makes you wonder why Reiko doesn't feel the need to tell him the truth, considering you're both in a similar circumstance, but maybe their circumstances that led them to being cops are very different. And because, I mean, her thing is she didn't want people to treat her differently. And, you know, it's so ironic. She wants to stay hidden, and she does, where he's very flashy and like, oh, I'm so great, I'm so amazing, look at me, oh, my fashion sense, also I'm from this family. So obviously they're polar opposites, but the reason why they do that, maybe there's deeper meanings behind that, obviously why Reiko decides to hide herself. But either way, she shows up at the party and she runs into different friends of hers, Ayaka, Kaori, and is it Hinako? And there's also Kazuya, who his situation's interesting because they know him because Ayaka's dad is the one whose birthday party it is, but Kazuya's family is the one who owns like the hotel the party's happening at, and Kazuya was dating one of their friends, Mai, but it seems like because of arranged marriage things, he's marrying someone else, and because of that, it ends up being a situation of like our group, which includes like Reiko, Ayaka, and Kaori, and those three in particular hate his guts. He even tried to say like Ayaka and Reiko would understand because they're in very similar family situations, but he's like, no, they're both like, no, we're not scum like you. And I guess it's just like, and Kaori seems to just come from a regular family because she's like, oh, like peasants like me. But it turns out Hinako has a connection to like Mai, Hinako, and Kazuya used to hang around each other all the time. But it seems like Mai's always had feelings for Kazuya, so that's got to be complicated where it's like the Mai situation being what it is and you liking him, but then him leaving Mai to be engaged to someone else has got to hurt as well. So, which obviously we'll kind of explore and talk about that a little bit later on, but because they touch on it a little bit this episode because they're like, oh, because Miso comes over and she's like, oh, what happened, like, is it true what happened to Mai? And like obviously the rumors are about like she tried to like overdose, but you know, Mai tried to say like, no, I just like, I couldn't sleep and I tried to take some sleeping pills. So, which is, you know, very tragic and sad that, you know, it seems like that might be related, or maybe I don't know. It feel, especially when we saw the depiction of it, it seemed like no, that seemed pretty purposeful. But now still being alive and everything, she's probably like, I don't want to, let people know I try to, sadly off myself because of this situation. And that's also because I also about to say, like, it seems like Kazuya doesn't seem too heartbroken. Though he's just kind of so matter of fact of it. It's just like it is what it is. I can't marry for love. I should marry for what's best for my family and helping out and stuff like that. But it turns out also like Kazuya doesn't know about the Mai situation because the trio this that group decided not to say anything. But I'm wondering, like, did Mai ask them not to say anything to anyone in particular, but definitely not to Kazuya? There was something introduced in this episode. I'm curious if we're gonna like. Obviously, it gets used against her later on, but Ayaka has beef with Mizuho for whatever reason, and we don't know what it is. Because even Reiko's like, "Oh, I wish like Ayaka wouldn't start beef with Mizuho," because she seems like Reiko seems to be on pretty good terms with Mizuho, but we don't know what Ayaka has beef with her because it turns out her, Kaori, and Mizuho all went to the same school together, so maybe it had something to deal with back then. I mean, maybe that's also why she doesn't, because we find out later on Mizuho and Kazuya, because at first I was like, are they like the engaged couple? But in retrospect, it's like, well, Reiko would probably like interact with her a little differently, but it's like, no, because they never did ever say like who he's actually engaged to, and I never thought about that until it's revealed. I'm like, oh, right, we didn't actually know, did we? But Mizuho is his cousin. But that's why I was like, I don't know if Ayaka's beef is just all this mice and Kazuya stuff, and she's just stretching it out to the rest of the family because she blames the family for that situation just as much as she blames Kazuya not standing up to his family. So, but it could just be something from back in the day when they were in school, like when they were younger, like why Ayaka has beef over. I don't know. I also love our introduction to Kageyama. Like, we don't get a proper introduction to him until the end of the episode, but he's sprinkled in here and there. Like, anytime Reiko does something and needs a little nudge in the right direction, he's there, kind of playing a little bit of a Shinichi from Detective Conan role to some extent, just kind of nudging in the right direction because she slips and falls and embarrasses herself because she's clumsy like that. But then he's like, oh no, you were obviously looking for something you dropped. Then later on, he ends up helping her when the cops are showing up and she doesn't want anyone to know the truth, especially doesn't want her boss, Kishiro, to know the truth. He ended up presenting her a disguise and she's like, well, how'd you have this already? Whatever. And he kind of, like I said, keeps winking and nudging her in the right direction. And we find out who he is at the end of the episode. He's a butler hired to be her newest attendant. I was like, interesting. Because I was like, it felt so disconnected because obviously she doesn't know this guy. And he's just kind of whispering to her. I was like, is there something, what is this whole thing? And it's like, oh, like it's kind of like he's like doing my job as a butler, kind of there to aid you, but kind of seen but unseen unless it's completely necessary. So I just thought that was kind of interesting to see that his character's playing such a, I was not expecting, once again, like I didn't really know what to expect going into this series, so I didn't expect his role to be like, oh, that's who he is. Cause I saw him as a butler, but I was like, is she going to end up hiring him after this or something? Because like he's a butler for this event, but it's like no, he was hired for. This is kind of his first official day being her attendant, her butler. So, but either way, the victim in this episode is Mizuho. She wasn't murdered. There was an attempted murder. I mean, who knows if murder was the intent, but they ended up attacking her. And she gives a description of her attacker. She was attacked by a woman in a red dress wearing a green like amulet necklace. And obviously she's like, it's someone I've seen before, but I don't know their name. And there's only, well, 3 but 4 women who wore red dresses. And that is Ayaka, Kaori, and Hanako, and obviously Reiko. But of those, oh, and also Chiaki, who she was shooting daggers towards Mizuho. Well, because Mizuho was like, oh, I'm feeling like someone's shooting daggers my way. And we look at Chiaki, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, is there something going on there? But maybe she was staring at someone else. It's meant to be misleading because you don't, because at first, you have Reiko being like, oh, maybe the guy who found her, his name I think is Yuji. It's like, yeah, maybe he's the one that should be suspicious because like he's like kind of a little sketchy and dodgy. But then like you have Kishiro kind of making the whole point of, well, most likely maybe him and Mizuho have like some like secret like kind of affair type of relationship, being very like gossipy and stuff like that in a corner like that. And so they kind of strike him as like, well, he's not a suspect. But they immediately go to Chiaki because it's like, well, at least Kaori um, and Ayako, who once again have the red dresses and the necklace. Ayaka has all the motive considering she hates Mizuho, but even says like, right, if I was going to do something to her, I'd hire someone to do it. It's like, I don't think that's the best thing to say during an investigation. Be like, oh, if I was going to hurt her or kill her, I'd hire someone to do it. It's like that doesn't strike you from the list. But also the point of it is what Mizuho said. It was someone she doesn't know. She's like, I've seen him before, but I don't know. And it's like, well, since they went to the same school, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you'd think she'd probably know Kaori and Ayaka. So it kind of immediately strikes them off the list. But then we find out Chiaki is, once again, Kazuya's cousin, and she was over there talking with her. So it's like, right, they're family now. So Mizuho would be familiar with her. So kind of removes her from the suspect. And obviously, I think it's so interesting when that guy's like, hey, I'm going to need this room for 5 because we have an important event happening. It's like, well, can you use any of the other rooms? He's like, no, they're all booked. We need this room. We're going to get you guys out of here by 5. I'm like, it's an investigation. Can you really just do that? But because it's like, well, there's probably a limited amount of rooms that are spacious enough for you to interrogate your 3, well, at the time, 4 suspects. So, but I just thought that was so weird. It's like, shouldn't you have some authority to be like, no? But I guess it's like, this is a rich and powerful family, and situation, so Kishiro immediately buckles under pressure, so they have 30 minutes to solve this situation, and they kind of have no suspects. Well, because immediately they're like, oh, it's got to be that Yuji guy, he's super suspicious, and Riko's like, I said that before. He's like, yeah, and I agreed with you. And they bring him in, but it turns out Yuji is like her lawyer or something, and he was keeping on a hush-hush. So that's their connection. So we never found out what that was about necessarily. So, but now like, he's telling her to go like find some other suspects and something in a time frame. They've got to figure something out, and she ends up running into Kageyama, who's like, oh, this is actually a pretty simple case, but you are kind of like bumbling your way through it. And she's like, okay, give me all the information. He's like, okay, I'm going to have to whisper this to you. I thought he was going to be like, oh, because that's so sensitive about who the person is behind the case. And I'll get to that in a second. But he's basically like, you can't solve something like this. Are you a moron? And she's so embarrassed because I did not expect that to be his response. I guess that's just going to be their dynamic where she is kind of the clumsy goofball that she is. Like, she tries her best, but she's clumsy. And I think for him, it's just kind of like he's the person that's like, I'll talk shit to you. Like, that's just probably I'm going to be the person who will be, I know who you are and I serve you, but I'm also going to keep it real with you and be bluntly honest when the need comes. I mean, that's why he was like, I'm going to whisper this to you because I don't want to make a big deal out of calling you a moron and embarrass you in front of people. But he says like, right, to solve this case, I'm going to need you to do that thing again, which immediately I'm like, so it has something to do with her tripping, because that's the only thing Reiko did that was kind of like a big noticeable thing at the party. So it has to be her tripping again, and I'm curious how that's going to play out. My theory is it's Hinako. I think she's the suspect because when she saw the Kazuya of it all, she kind of ran away and was just kind of upset. I wonder, did she attack Mizuho because like Mizuho figured something out? Because like I said, the whole Chiaki, it seemed like Chiaki's the one that was staring daggers at her, but it was most likely Hinako. And I wonder, did Hinako think that Mizuho didn't know that Kazuya and her were related? They were cousins. Maybe she thought that was the fiance, and maybe that's why that happened. Because like I said, Mizuho's like, I've seen her before, I just don't know her. And it's like, if she hung around Mai and Kazuya, that might be why she recognizes it. Because obviously it's like she doesn't have the green necklace. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a situation of maybe when Reiko fell, she dropped her necklace or something, and in that moment, Hanako switched it out. Like maybe she took that because she doesn't have a green necklace. It's interesting why Kaori and Chiaki and Ayaka have the dresses and the necklace, but Hanako's the only one who had a different necklace. So I'm wondering, did Reiko drop one while she was like fell to the ground, and Hanako like either switched them or like had the green one initially, but then like maybe she found Reiko's necklace on the ground, picked it up, and put it on. I don't know. Like I'm trying to piece together what Kageyama could gleam from Reiko like falling like that again, like what purpose that would serve. Obviously, it's going to be a crucial thing for the case. I just don't know how. So, but yeah, like Hanako seems to be the obvious case. But once again, the point is the motivation of, like I said, did she mistake Mizuho for like his fiance, or is there something there? Because it feels like this might tie into the Mai stuff as well. Not unless we find out some big twist where it's like Mai and Hanako, like Hanako isn't here at the party, it's actually Mai in disguise. Not unless they do something crazy like that, but I don't know. Especially because they hint to the whole like Hanako like also liking Kazuya. So we'll see where all this takes us. I'm assuming the next episode will be the resolution to all of this. I'm curious to see how it all plays out, and like I said, what Kageyama discovered, and whether or not it is Hinako. Like I said, my money's on her, but there's always a possibility it's someone else. But I highly doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's her, but we'll see. I'm interested to see where all of this ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, really quickly too, before I wrap this up, sorry. I really like the intro and the outro, specifically the song, especially the outro. The ending song is a bop, and I was like, ooh, I like the vibe and bob with like a song like that. It's just, I don't know, it's a really nice song. I'm really interested to end up listening to the full version of that. But anyway, that's enough of my rambling. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.